Hi, I'm Sumera Sandhir, a junior at the Miami Valley School, and this is my U.S. history video on my takeaways from immersion 2019. For my immersion, I went to Ecuador and the Galapagos Islands. I learned all about the culture of Ecuador, ate a lot of really good food, and discovered all the different scenery and animals the Galapagos had to offer. While I learned a lot of new things, there are about 3 concepts that I learned that I want to bring back and incorporate into my everyday lifestyle. The first thing that I learned was adaptability. While I already know what this is, I was able to practice adaptability a lot more. We on our immersion we had a lot of things go wrong, especially with traveling and things like that. First off, we had a 7-hour delay on our first flight to Columbus. We had to reroute and we ended up spending the night in Bogota, Colombia. And while those things were unexpected and might have seemed annoying and inconvenient for a lot of people, and while it was for us, we made the best out of it as a whole group. And I think that was one of the really strong points of our immersion, and what made it so great was that no one really ever complained about anything, and we were all really flexible. We just kind of went with the flow. And so when we were in the Columbia airport at 3 in the morning, instead of complaining about not being able to sleep and being really tired and just wanting to be in Ecuador already, we were playing cards in the airport and having fun, and it was just a really great time. We also had a lot of things go wrong with some of the activities we were doing. Like the chocolate massages were interesting to say the least. And all these things that went wrong, they were just experiences that just added to the immersion and just made it what it was. So the second thing that I learned personally was more self-confidence. And while that might seem kind of weird, it was more of what I looked like. I realized it really didn't matter. And I know that's might seem like common sense to some people, but I struggle with that. And while we were on immersion, we didn't have time to worry about that. Everyone was gross, everyone was sweaty all the time. Our clothes were all dirty and wet from the rain or whatever in the Galapagos. And it just never crossed my mind what I look like if I was wearing makeup or not. And I didn't really have the opportunity to wear makeup for 2 whole weeks, and I didn't even care. And I've kind of brought that back now, and I don't really care about that as much, and I think that's really important because it's just another stress that I don't need, and I'm just really happy that I finally learned that. Okay, so for the last thing, I actually need my journal, and in our journal on the first day of immersion, we had to choose a quote about traveling and adventure and write it down and kind of keep that in the back of our minds throughout the entire immersion to try and fulfill what the quote says. And so my quote says, "I'll look back on this and smile because it was life and I decided to live it." And I think this quote kind of sums up what my immersion experience was. And I lived life. I had so much fun. I was super adventurous. I did all these things I've never done before. I took risks and I did brand new things. I went on a jungle hike in the middle of the jungle, Amazon jungle, with spiders surrounding me, and that was really scary, but it was an experience that I'm never gonna forget, and I really stepped outside my comfort zone, and I really lived life, and I made new friends, and it was just a great time. And I think that's just that quote is just something that I need to remember, because if something gets too stressful, and I tend to stress myself out a lot, I just have to remember that I need to live life. I need to do what I want to do and not try and please others and hold myself back. I need to live life.